The room smelled like fear and old concrete. Maya sat in the darkest corner, her knees pulled tight to her chest. She hadn't moved from that spot in 3 days. The other girls whispered about her, calling her the ghost girl. They said she'd lost her mind completely. Maya was 19, but she looked much older. Her hair hung in tangled strings around her face. Her clothes were too big, hanging loose on her thin frame. But it was her eyes that told the real story. They were empty, like someone had turned off all the lights inside her head. 3 years ago, Maya had been a different person. She lived in a small village with her grandmother, helping in their tiny shop. She dreamed of becoming a teacher, of having her own classroom full of children eager to learn. Those dreams felt like they belonged to someone else now, someone who lived a lifetime ago. The men who controlled this place had tried everything to make Maya useful to them. They threatened her, tried to scare her into cooperation. But Maya had retreated so far inside herself that their words couldn't touch her anymore. She built walls in her mind so high that nothing could get through, not even kindness. When buyers came to look at the girls, they walked right past Maya. She wasn't pretty anymore, wasn't young-looking anymore. She didn't smile or try to please anyone. She just sat there like a broken doll that nobody wanted to play with. The men who ran the place started calling her worthless, a waste of space and food. But Maya didn't care what they called her. She'd learned that caring hurt too much, so she'd stopped caring about everything. She stopped caring about tomorrow, about food, about whether the sun came up or went down. She just existed, breathing in and out because her body wouldn't let her stop. Dr. Lisa Park had seen many difficult cases in her 10 years of rescue work, but something about Maya grabbed her attention immediately. While her team worked with the other rescue girls, Lisa found herself drawn to the silent figure in the corner. The girl wasn't crying or shaking like the others. She wasn't asking for help or showing any emotion at all. She was just gone. Lisa had worked with trauma victims before, but this was different. Maya wasn't just scared or sad. She disappeared completely from her own life. It was like her soul had packed up and moved somewhere else, leaving behind an empty shell. The rescue had happened quickly. Police and rescue workers had surrounded the building at dawn, breaking down doors and shouting commands. The other girls had cried with relief, grabbing onto the rescuers' hands. But Maya hadn't even looked up. She'd sat in her corner as if nothing had changed, as if rescue and captivity were exactly the same thing. Now, in the safety of the rescue center, Maya still hadn't spoken a word. The medical team had checked her over, finding old injuries that had healed badly and signs of severe malnutrition. But it was the emptiness in her eyes that worried everyone the most. They'd seen broken bones heal and scared minds recover, but they'd never seen someone disappear so completely from their own life. Lisa tried talking to Maya on that first day. She sat nearby, not too close, and spoke in a gentle voice about simple things. The weather outside was sunny. The soup they were serving smelled good. There were flowers growing in the garden behind the center. Maya gave no sign that she heard any of it. The other girls at the center whispered about Maya during meals. They said she was crazy, that whatever had happened to her was too terrible to come back from. Some of them were scared of her silence, as if it might be contagious. Others felt sorry for her but didn't know how to help. Maya's daily routine was simple because she barely had one. Staff members would guide her to meals, and she'd eat a few bites if someone put food in front of her. They'd lead her to a shower, and she'd stand under the water until someone turned it off. At night, she'd lie on her bed staring at the ceiling until exhaustion finally pulled her into restless sleep. The nightmares came every night. In her dreams, Maya was back in the dark room, back in the life she'd escaped from. But even worse than the scary dreams were the moments when she'd wake up and remember that she was supposed to be safe now. Safety felt foreign to her, like wearing clothes that didn't fit. Lisa watched Maya carefully during those first weeks. She noticed tiny things that others missed. The way Maya's breathing changed when someone spoke kindly to her, how her fingers would twitch slightly when music played in the common room. These weren't big signs of recovery, but they were signs that somewhere deep inside, Maya was still alive. The breakthrough moment came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Lisa was sitting near Maya's bed, talking quietly about the sound of rain on the windows. She'd done this dozens of times before with no response, but this time, something was different. Maya's hand, which had been lying still on the blanket, moved just a tiny bit toward Lisa's voice. It wasn't much. Anyone else might have missed it completely. But Lisa had been watching for any sign of life, any hint that Maya was still somewhere. Inside that empty shell, this tiny movement was like finding a flickering candle in a dark cave. It meant that maybe, just maybe, Maya could find her way back home to herself. 3 weeks had passed since Maya arrived at the recovery center, but she still lived in her own invisible prison. The building was warm and safe, with soft beds and good food, but Maya couldn't feel any of it. She moved through each day like a sleepwalker, going through the motions of living without actually being alive. Dr. Lisa Park had never encountered a case quite like Maya's. Most survivors showed some response after a few days in a safe environment. They might cry, get angry, ask questions, or at least make eye contact. But Maya remained completely unreachable, like she was living behind thick glass that no one could break through. The medical team was getting worried. Maya barely ate enough to keep a bird alive. She had to be reminded to drink water, to change clothes, to brush her teeth. It was as if she'd forgotten how to be human. The nurses would gently guide her through basic daily tasks. But Maya never initiated anything on her own. During group therapy sessions, Maya would sit in the same chair, every time staring at her hands folded in her lap. The other survivors would share their stories, cry together, and slowly start to heal. But Maya remained silent, so still that sometimes people forgot she was even in the room. Dr. Lisa tried everything she could think of. She brought in art supplies, thinking Maya might express herself through drawing. The papers remained blank. She played different types of music, hoping something might spark a memory or emotion. Maya showed no reaction to any of it. She even brought in a therapy dog, a gentle golden retriever named Buddy who usually helps survivors feel calmer. Maya didn't even look at the dog. Some of the staff members started whispering that maybe Maya was too far gone to help. They'd seen other survivors recover from terrible experiences, but Maya's silence was different. It was deeper, more complete. It was like she'd erased herself from her own life. But Dr. Lisa refused to give up. Every day, she would sit near Maya and talk to her as if they were old friends having a normal conversation. She'd tell Maya about the weather outside, about what was happening in the news, about the flowers blooming in the center's garden. She never expected an answer, but she kept talking anyway. The rain sounds so peaceful today, doesn't it, Maya? Lisa would say, sitting in the chair next to Maya's bed. It reminds me of when I was little and would listen to storms from my bedroom window. My grandmother used to say that rain was nature's way of washing the world clean. Maya never responded, but Lisa noticed tiny things. Sometimes Maya's breathing would slow down when Lisa spoke. Other times, her shoulders would relax just a little bit. These weren't big changes, but they were something. The nurses had their own theories about Maya's condition. Some thought she was choosing to stay silent because it felt safer than facing reality. Others believed she was protecting herself the only way she knew how. But Lisa suspected something different. She thought Maya had retreated so far inside herself that she might not know how to find her way back out. One rainy afternoon, Lisa was sitting by Maya's bedside as usual. The rain was drumming against the windows, creating a gentle rhythm that filled the quiet room. Lisa was talking softly about how peaceful the sound was, how it made everything feel clean and fresh. You know, Maya, Lisa said quietly, sometimes I think the rain is like a reset button for the world. It washes away all the dust and dirt, giving everything a chance to start over. As she spoke, Lisa noticed something different about Maya's posture. Her head was tilted slightly, as if she was actually listening. It was such a small change that anyone else might have missed it completely. Then something incredible happened. Maya's hand, which had been lying perfectly still on the white bedsheet, began to move. It wasn't a big movement, just her fingers shifting slightly across the fabric. But it was deliberate, purposeful, as if she was testing whether her body still belonged to her. Lisa's heart started beating faster, but she forced herself to stay calm. She didn't want to scare Maya back into her shell by reacting too strongly. Instead, she slowly moved her own hand closer to Maya's, not touching, just offering her presence. For several minutes, nothing else happened. Lisa continued talking softly about the rain, about fresh starts and new beginnings, and then, so gently that Lisa almost wondered if she'd imagined it, Maya's fingertips brushed against Lisa's palm. It lasted less than a second, that tiny touch. But in that moment, something extraordinary happened. For the first time in months, Maya had reached out to another human being. She'd broken through her invisible walls just enough to make contact with the outside world. Lisa felt tears prick her eyes, but she kept her voice steady and calm. "Thank you, Maya," she whispered. "Thank you for letting me know you're still there." Maya's hand pulled back immediately, but Lisa didn't mind. That one small touch had told her everything she needed to know. Somewhere inside that silent, scared girl was a human being who still wanted to connect with others. Maya wasn't lost forever. She was just hiding, waiting for someone patient enough to help her find her way back home to herself. From that moment on, Lisa knew that Maya's recovery was possible. It would take time, patience, and more gentle moments like this one. But that tiny touch had been like lighting a match in complete darkness. It proved that even the most broken spirits could still reach out for help when they felt truly safe. The tiny touch had changed everything and nothing at the same time. Maya still sat in the same corner of her room, still barely spoke, still moved through her days like a ghost. But Dr. Lisa could see something different in her eyes. It was like a single star appearing in a dark sky, so small you might miss it, but proof that light still existed somewhere. 2 months had passed since Maya's rescue, and the changes came in whispers rather than shouts. She would turn her head slightly when Lisa entered the room. Her fingers would twitch when someone mentioned food she used to like. These weren't big moments, but they were moments, and that was more than they'd had before. Lisa learned to read Maya's silence like a book written in a language only she could understand. The way Maya's shoulders tensed when she was scared. How? Her breathing changed when memories tried to push their way back into her mind. The slight relaxation around her eyes when she felt safe. It was like watching someone slowly wake up from the deepest sleep imaginable. The other survivors at the center had started to notice Maya more. At first, they'd been afraid of her silence, treating her like she might disappear if they looked at her too directly. But now some of the girls would sit near her during meals, not talking, just sharing the quiet space. They seemed to understand that Maya was fighting her way back to the world, one breath at a time. During this time, Lisa pieced together fragments of Maya's story from police reports and witness statements. Maya had grown up in a small mountain village where everyone knew everyone. Her parents had died when she was young, leaving an elderly grandmother to raise her. They'd run a small store that sold everything from rice to school supplies. Maya had been the kind of girl who helped elderly neighbors carry heavy bags and read stories to younger children. When Maya was 16, men had come to the village promising good jobs in the city. They said girls could work in restaurants and send money home to their families. Maya's grandmother was sick and needed medicine they couldn't afford. The decision to let Maya go had probably broken the old woman's heart. But desperation makes people believe in impossible promises. What happened next was a story Lisa had heard too many times before. The promised restaurant job never existed. Instead, Maya found herself trapped in a nightmare that lasted 3 years. The details didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that Maya had survived, when many others hadn't. Her spirit had been buried deep, but it hadn't been destroyed. The breakthrough Lisa had been waiting for came on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Maya was sitting by the window, watching birds hop around in the courtyard outside. Lisa was nearby, quietly folding clothes from the laundry basket. The room was peaceful, filled with the kind of comfortable silence that comes between old friends. Then Maya spoke. It was just one word, so quiet Lisa almost missed it. Please, Maya whispered. Her voice rusty from months of not being used. Lisa's heart jumped. But she kept her movements calm and steady. She didn't want to startle Maya back into silence by getting too excited. What would you like, Maya? She asked gently, as if they'd been having conversations like this every day. Maya looked down at her hands, then back up at Lisa. Please, she said again, a little louder this time. But Lisa realized Maya wasn't asking for anything specific. She was just testing her voice, seeing if the words would come out, checking if she still had the right to make sounds in the world. It's okay to use your voice, Maya, Lisa said softly. You can say whatever you want to say, or you can stay quiet if that feels better. It's completely up to you. Over the next few days, more words came, simple ones at first. Water when she was thirsty, tired when she needed to rest, cold when she wanted a blanket. Each word was like a small victory, proof that Maya was slowly remembering how to ask for what she needed. But with words came other things too, dreams that were more like memories. Moments when Maya would suddenly look terrified for no reason anyone else could see. Her body remembered things her mind was trying to forget, and sometimes the memories would hit her like waves during a storm. Lisa knew this was normal, even necessary. Maya couldn't heal without facing what had happened to her, but watching someone you care about relive their worst moments is never easy. Lisa learned to stay close during these difficult episodes, offering quiet comfort without trying to fix everything. The real turning point came when Maya started making choices again, small ones, but choices nonetheless. She picked what clothes to wear from the options Lisa offered. She chose where to sit during group time. She decided whether she wanted juice or water with her meals. Each decision was Maya reclaiming a tiny piece of her life, remembering that she had the power to shape her own experience. One evening, as Lisa was getting ready to leave for the day, Maya called out to her from across the room. Lisa, she said, using her name for the first time. Thank you. Those two words carried the weight of everything Maya couldn't yet say. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for believing I was still in here somewhere. Thank you for helping me remember that I'm human, that I matter, that I deserve kindness. Lisa smiled, feeling like she'd just witnessed a miracle. You're welcome, Maya, and thank you for trusting me enough to let me help. As Lisa walked to her car that night, she thought about how healing wasn't a straight line from broken to whole. It was more like a spiral staircase, sometimes going up, sometimes feeling like you were going in circles, but always gradually climbing toward the light. Maya was climbing now, one word, one choice, one moment at a time. 6 months had passed since Maya first whispered please in that quiet room. Now she could speak in full sentences, though her voice still carried the weight of everything she'd been through. Words came slowly at first, like she was testing each one before letting it out into the world. Maya's days had a rhythm now. She woke up when the morning light touched her window, not because someone told her to, but because she chose to. She picked her own clothes from the small closet in her room, usually simple things in soft colors that didn't draw attention. She ate breakfast with the other survivors, sometimes even joining their conversations about small, normal things like the weather or what movie they might watch that evening. But the nights were still hard. Dreams would come without warning, pulling Maya back to places she'd rather forget. She'd wake up with her heart racing, unsure for a moment where she was. The difference now was that she could call out for help. Lisa had given her a small bell to keep by her bed, and sometimes Maya would ring it softly when the darkness felt too heavy to carry alone. Dr. Lisa had introduced something new to Maya's healing process, art therapy. At first, Maya had just stared at the blank paper, the colored pencils lying untouched beside her. I don't know how to draw, she'd said quietly. There's no right or wrong way, Lisa had replied. Just put whatever feels true onto the paper. Maya's first drawings were dark, swirls of black and gray that looked like storms or deep water. Sometimes she'd press so hard with the pencils that the paper would tear. But Lisa never asked her to explain what the pictures meant. She just sat nearby, offering quiet company while Maya put her feelings into colors and shapes. Slowly, the drawings began to change. A tiny spot of yellow would appear in the corner of a dark page. A thin line of blue might stretch across the gray. These weren't happy pictures yet, but they weren't hopeless either. They were the visual diary of someone, slowly finding her way back to the light. The real surprise came when new survivors arrived at the center. Maya watched from across the room as they were brought in, scared, confused. Some of them as silent as she had once been. Instead of looking away or hiding in her room, Maya found herself drawn to them. "I want to help," she told Lisa one evening. After a particularly frightened girl had arrived that day, Lisa was careful with her response. Maya was still healing, still fragile in many ways. "What kind of help did you have in mind?" "Just sit with them," Maya said, "like you sat with me. Nobody should have to be alone with their thoughts when they first get here." It was a remarkable moment. Maya, who had been so lost in her own darkness, was now thinking about bringing light to someone else. Lisa realized that helping others might be exactly what Maya needed to continue her own healing. The next day, Maya approached the new girl, a teenager named Rose who hadn't spoken since her rescue. 3 days earlier, Maya didn't try to start a conversation or ask questions. She simply sat nearby, close enough that Rose would know she wasn't alone, but far enough away that she wouldn't feel crowded out. For an hour, they sat in comfortable silence. Then Maya began to speak, very softly, about simple things. The taste of the soup they'd had for lunch, the way the afternoon light came through the windows, how the birds in the courtyard seemed to have their own little conversations. Rose didn't respond that day or the next, but on the third day, when Maya sat down beside her, Rose looked up and made eye contact for just a moment. It was the same kind of tiny breakthrough that Maya herself had experienced months earlier. "She looked at me today," Maya told Lisa that evening, and there was something new in her voice, pride, purpose, hope. As weeks went by, Maya became the unofficial welcome committee for new arrivals. She had a gift for recognizing the spark of life in even the most withdrawn survivors. Maybe it was because she'd been in that same dark place, or maybe it was because her own healing had taught her to see past the surface. She learned that healing wasn't a destination you arrived at, but a journey you took one day at a time. Some days were harder than others. Sometimes the memories would hit her like ocean waves, and she'd have to remind herself that she was safe now, that the past couldn't hurt her anymore. But helping others gave Maya's pain a purpose. Every time she sat with a frightened newcomer, every time she offered a hand to hold or a shoulder to cry on, she was transforming her own suffering into something meaningful. One evening, as Maya was helping a new survivor feel comfortable in the common room, Lisa watched from the doorway. The girl who had once been considered too broken to ever heal was now becoming a healer herself. Maya's gentleness with the other survivors was extraordinary, patient, understanding, never pushing, always accepting. "How do you know exactly what they need?" Lisa asked Maya later. Maya thought for a moment before answering. "Because I remember what it felt like to be lost. And I remember how good it felt when someone believed I was worth saving." That night, Maya made a decision that would change the direction of her life. She wanted to learn more about helping trauma survivors. She wanted to study, to train, to become someone who could offer professional help alongside the understanding that came from her own experience. "I want to be like you," she told Lisa. "I want to help people find their way back home to themselves." Lisa smiled, remembering the silent, broken girl who had arrived at the center just 8 months earlier. "Maya, I think you're already doing that, and I think you're going to be amazing at it." For the first time since her rescue, Maya allowed herself to think about the future. Not just surviving from day to day, but actually building a life that had meaning and purpose. The girl who had once been too broken to sell had discovered that she was invaluable in a completely different way, as someone who could light the path for others walking through darkness. 18 months had passed since Maya first arrived at the recovery center, and the change was nothing short of miraculous. The girl who once sat silent in dark corners now moved through the world with quiet confidence. Her voice was steady and clear when she spoke, and her eyes held a light that had been missing for so long. Maya had kept her promise to herself. She'd spent the past year studying everything she could about trauma recovery, psychology, and counseling techniques. Dr. Lisa had become not just her healer, but her mentor and friend. Together, they created a new program at the center, survivor-led support groups where people who had walked through darkness could help others find their way to the light. The morning started like many others, with Maya preparing for her support group session. But today was special. A documentary crew was coming to film their work, hoping to show the world that recovery was possible even from the deepest trauma. Maya had been nervous about being on camera, but Lisa had reminded her that sharing her story might help countless. Other survivors realized they weren't alone. In the group room, 6 women sat in a circle. Some were new to the center, others had been there for months. Maya recognized herself in each of their faces, the fear, the uncertainty, the fragile hope that maybe life could be different than what they'd known. "My name is Maya," she began, as she always did, "a year and a half ago. I was sitting where some of you are sitting now. I couldn't speak, couldn't eat, couldn't even remember how to be human. I thought I was too broken to ever be whole again." She paused, looking round the circle. A new rival named Priya was staring at her hands, just as Maya once had. Another survivor, Chen, was listening intently, having heard this introduction many times but still finding comfort in it. "The thing about healing," Maya continued, "is that it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in moments, small moments, that add up to something bigger. For me, it started when someone sat with me without expecting anything in return. When someone believed I was worth saving, even when I didn't believe it myself." Maya's eyes found Priya, who had lifted her head slightly. "Today, I want to talk about the power of reaching out, not just receiving help, but giving it. Because sometimes, helping someone else helps us remember who we really are." After the group session, Maya walked through the center's corridors with a sense of purpose she'd never thought possible. She stopped by the room where new rivals first stayed, remembering her own early days when everything felt impossible. A young woman named Asha had arrived the night before. She sat curled up on her bed, staring out the window with the same empty expression Maya knew so well. Without saying a word, Maya pulled up a chair and sat nearby. She didn't try to start a conversation or ask questions. She just offered her presence, the way Lisa had done for her so long ago. "The birds are busy today," Maya said softly, watching the sparrows hop around the courtyard. "They remind me that life keeps moving forward even when we feel stuck." Asha didn't respond, but Maya noticed her breathing had slowed down. That was enough for now. Later that afternoon, Maya sat down with the documentary crew. The interviewer was kind but direct. "Can you tell us about your journey from victim to survivor to healer?" Maya thought carefully before answering. "I don't think I was ever just a victim, even at my lowest point. There was always something inside me that refused to give up completely. The healing process helped me find that strength again and learn how to use it to help others." What would you say to someone who feels like they're too broken to heal? I'd tell them what someone once told me, that being broken doesn't mean being worthless. Sometimes we have to break apart completely before we can put ourselves back together in a way that's even stronger than before. The interviewer leaned forward. "What's next for you?" Maya smiled. "I'm starting university next year to study psychology formally, but I'll keep working here too. This place saved my life, and now I want to help it save other lives." That evening, as Maya was preparing to leave for the day, she checked on Asha one more time. To her surprise, Asha was sitting up, no longer staring out the window. "Maya," Asha said quietly. It was the first word she'd spoken since arriving. "Yes, thank you for sitting with me today. It helped." Maya felt the familiar warmth that came from these moments of connection. "You're welcome, Asha, and thank you for trusting me enough to speak." As Maya walked to the bus stop that evening, she reflected on how far she'd come. The girl who had once been considered worthless by people who saw only what they could take from her had discovered her true value, not as someone to be used, but as someone who could heal and help and hope. She thought about Dr. Lisa, who had first extended a hand of friendship when Maya needed it most. That simple gesture had started a chain reaction of healing that was now spreading to others. Maya had learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is sit with someone in their darkness and remind them they're not alone. The bus arrived, and as Maya found her seat, she noticed a young woman across the aisle who looked scared and lost. Without overthinking it, Maya offered a gentle smile. The woman smiled back tentatively, and Maya saw in her eyes the same spark she'd learned to recognize in herself and others. The unbreakable human spirit that survives even the darkest times. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "Proud of you today. See you tomorrow." Maya typed back, "Thank you for teaching me that broken things can become beautiful when they're put back together with love." As the bus moved through the city streets, Maya looked out at the lights beginning to twinkle in windows and apartments. Each light represented a life, a story, a human being with their own struggles and dreams. She'd learned that everyone carries some kind of darkness, but everyone also carries light. The documentary would air in a few months, sharing Maya's story with the world. But for Maya, the real victory wasn't in being on television or becoming famous. It was in the quiet moments, holding someone's hand when they were scared, offering hope when everything felt hopeless, proving every day that healing was possible. Maya's journey from that broken girl in the corner to the confident young woman she'd become was proof that no one is ever too far gone to come back home to themselves and every person she helped along the way was proof that one act of kindness could change everything.